Hello, Tom LaVecchia here with the New Theory podcast. I am with the OG of bloggers, the OG of celebrity gossip, and frankly, the OG of everything. Perez Hilton, welcome to the New Theory podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm well. I am enjoying being home. I did a lot of traveling this summer, which is awesome, but I think us human beings, we most of us, maybe not everybody clearly, but a lot of us thrive on a routine and structure. So it's nice just to be home and in my routine and working out and doing things with my kids and enjoying the summer in LA.
Nice, I love it, and we'll go through your journey today. So we like to start off with we're all developing a new theory, and you made some great points about enjoying your family and that kind of stuff. But let's start out with your formative years, and tell us about that and what makes.
I'd say the most important thing of my formative years was being brought up in a Cuban household, where two of the most important lessons that I was raised on, I definitely impart those on my children. Actually, three. The three most important things are, family's the most important thing.
Nice.
Working hard is the second most important thing. And studying and doing well in school is very important as well. So because I had that hard work ethic ingrained in me from birth, I was able to create everything for myself. I was not handed anything. I was doing what I'm doing and have been doing for 13 years now before anybody else was really doing it. Before there was a YouTube or an Instagram or a Twitter, there was me.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of that and that I'm still around.
And it's been a number of years. Who were some of those bigger influencers earlier on to help shape, some of that thought process? Because you're obviously wildly successful, but I'm assuming there have been some pretty good people along the way who influenced you.
I would say probably my mom, but not in the way that you would imagine.
Okay.
Like, mom inspired me by modeling everything I did not want to be or do in my life.
Okay.
She, when I was a senior in high school, really was pressuring me and wanting me to be either a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer. Things that most of the people who graduated from my high school did, and I just never envisioned my life in a traditional way. I always thought outside the box, and my mom has always very much lived her life inside the box. I say that with love. I love my mom, but I knew I wanted something more and different.
Okay, so something more and different, and you got into blogging, and you got into blogging before all the Insta-hos and all this nonsense that's happening nowadays. How did you even start out, Perez?
I just started off as a hobby, like I would imagine a lot of. Well, actually, no. Now it's different. Now a lot of people, purposefully want to grow their social media, and they approach it as a job. I never approached it as a job. I always just approached it as a hobby that luckily turned into a job. I would still be doing what I'm doing even if I wasn't getting paid, but thankfully I'm able to make a living off of it and support my family as a result.
Well, so here's the thing. I'm 2 years your senior, and I've been following you over the years, and I've always been quite impressed. And we just recently had Dr. Miami on. I don't know if you know him. He's big on Snapchat. And we talked about it takes 17 years to be an overnight success, and dude, you've been working at it. I know it's your passion, you love it, but you've been working your balls off these last probably 15 some odd years. So give us, that point where what did you do in the beginning that made you so successful, and set you up now? Was it working your balls off? Was it making the right moves? Was it strategy? Because you're not an accident, right? So give us kind of now to then what gave you the foundation to who you are today from a business perspective?
I mean, at the end of the day, I made myself successful because I am special.
Okay.
And I also believe that everybody is special. And that's the thing. It's discovering what makes you special and different from everybody else. When I speak to college students, they all, I think maybe they roll their eyes when I say that to them at first, because they maybe don't believe it or they don't quite understand it. But then I share this other way of expressing that same thought, which is I truly don't believe that ideas are special. And a lot of people might fight me on that, but not. Two people on complete opposite sides of the world, they have the same exact genius, brilliant idea that nobody else had ever thought of. So clearly, it's not about the idea. It's about how you execute it. It's about what you bring to the table. It's about what sets you apart from everybody else. Stop trying to be like everybody else and you just try to be your best possible. That's when success will come to you quicker and more easily.
Okay, so that makes sense, right? So I'm taking some notes here. Everyone is special. Everybody has something special about them. It's about being discovered. You obviously were working hard along the way to get discovered and to grow kind of your platform. But when did it become a business for you? You know, you had your blog and all of a sudden like people are like, hey, here, you know, I want to advertise with you. Or when did it first become a business? You're like, holy shit, I can do this full time. When did that come about?
It took over a year and a half. You know, for the first year and a half, I wasn't making any money.
Yeah.
And then eventually I started to make a little bit of money, not a lot. And then eventually I started to make a little bit more and then a little bit more. And then things just took off. But it definitely wasn't anything quick. It took a year and a half of like daily. Like I would update it and work on it every single day. I never took a day off, even though I wasn't making any money from it. And that's one of the keys to success is consistency. You've got to work hard and consistently work hard.
And that's a part I think people are trying to, you know, hear the word hack a lot. So I think people are trying to skirt that and you just give them no choice. Now, what's one of your biggest failures to date? Because, you know, I followed you along the way and to me, it's not a meteoric rise. You've just been grinding and been great all along and then you grew from there. But what one or two failures could be a commercial failure, it could be a personal failure if you don't mind. What's one of your biggest failures today, Perez?
Oh, I've had so many failures. I would say perhaps the one that cost me the most money, but I don't regret at all, is for about 3 or 4 years there. I was also working as a music manager because I love music. I'm so passionate about it. Nice. I love helping new artists, young artists, and I spent so much money developing acts, working with acts. I even started a boy band with Simon Fuller, who created the Spice Girls and created American Idol. And even with him attached, it just did not take off. I had a great time while doing it, and I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Importantly, I learned that the music industry is a profession that I want to just remain as a fan, maybe as a consultant down the road, but I never want to work at a label or as a manager or anything like that.
True, and a lot of the distribution is now done because, you know, now you can just literally do it yourself and market it yourself. So I don't blame you. If anything, maybe in the future there may be Perez Records down the road, right? So now you're a father, and this is where I'm 2 years your senior. I see you have 2 beautiful children. You're not shy about posting them. How has fatherhood affected you, and how important is work-life balance now that you are a father?
You know, actually, fatherhood is the best thing that ever happened to my career.
Nice.
Because it opens me up to more opportunity.
True.
It forced me to say yes to more, because before kids, I was a lot more selective. I was like, oh, that's not good for my brand, or that's lame, or whatever, all the things I would say. Now it's like, I got 2 kids, and they're expensive, and I support my mom as well. I was like, I will do whatever for a paycheck. You show up with the money, I'll do it.
I love it. I love it. But that's the thing, though, because, again, like, people are fascinated for many, many reasons. But I'm fascinated with you because you really curated a really strong brand. But here's the thing, right? Like, I'm sorry, but I hit Urban Dictionary about 3-4 times a day. I just do, right? So, like, how do you keep your brand relevant as we're getting older? Because that's, you do, but how do you go about keeping it relevant, you know, all this time? Because we're getting old, man, and but you're still relevant. How do you keep that relevancy?
I would say the fortunate thing about me is that people don't really care about my personal life.
Okay.
They're not invested in me as a person. I mean, maybe some people do, but I'm not foolish. I would say the majority don't. And that's a good thing because I have something far greater that will always keep me working, which is celebrities. People are always going to be interested in celebrities, so there will always be a space for me to comment and to be involved and to get people heated or whatever it may be.
You know the irony? You made a living off of kind of celebrities' personal lives, but yet nobody seems to be as vested in yours. But you know what? But you're a good person, you're a good father. Okay, let's get to kind of 2017 because I know you're busy and I got a few more questions. Now we're down to 2017. I got to imagine, though, nowadays there's so much noise. And now you have children, you're supporting your mother, and you got to make money and you got a brand to protect, not just grow at this point. So you went from being an entrepreneur almost to being a CEO. We have to manage this conglomerate. What are some of the challenges nowadays to keep your business growing despite 1,000, not Perez's, but 1,000 wannabe Perez's at a micro scale? So from a business perspective, how do you tackle that challenge?
The only challenge really is to not get complacent or lazy. I am just so confident in my work ethic and my abilities, and having been around long enough, knowing also that success could happen to somebody by fluke. Like that Cash Me Outside girl who's found success this year. that happened to her easily and by accident. However, success does not sustain itself unless you are truly talented and or a hard worker. And I know that I truly am multi-talented, and I don't say that in a conceited way. And I know that I'm also still 13 years later, the hardest working person I know.
Who's been a celebrity that has fascinated you? That like, you know, like, hey, they're not going to make it, or hey,
I've got the perfect answer for that. And actually, I just literally said those words that so and so still fascinates me on my podcast this week. On my podcast, I talk about the Angelina Jolie interview with Vanity Fair.
Good point.
And I said to my podcast co-host, I am still so fascinated by her. I don't know. I do know what it is. It's like she's not on social media.
Yeah.
She doesn't do too many interviews. She's rarely seen out in public. Like, I'm still interested in Angelina Jolie, and that is majorly to her credit because the majority of people these days don't have any mystery or allure. And since I shamelessly brought up my podcast, if anybody listening to yours wants to listen to mine, you can check out the Perez Hilton podcast with Chris Booker on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, or directly at perezpodcast.com.
And Perez, we will put a link on here to make sure people will find our podcast with you on it, but then as importantly, find your podcast with you on it. But conversely, real quick before we wrap up, who's maybe a celebrity that you're probably most disappointed with over the years? Just somebody whose star faded out, or just maybe manage your career, you know, inappropriately, or just suck? Who's maybe a celebrity that has stars faded over the years that was almost a disappointment to you?
I would say Lindsay Lohan, just because, you know, she kept getting so many chances and chances and chances and chances, and she squandered them all. I mean, she even got co-signed by Oprah, and Oprah was wanting to, you know, give this great redemption tale for her, and she let Oprah down in a major way. However, I do think that people as a whole love a comeback story, and Hollywood is very forgiving. So anything is possible. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more from Lindsay Lohan.
Good point. Good point. Because America, especially Hollywood, loves a redemption story. This is my last question for you, Perez. So we finished this podcast. Something happens where I lose the recording forever, and in 20 years from now, actually 40 years from now, your kids find this podcast, right? And it hasn't been played since. What do you want to say to your 40-year-old kids who find this podcast 40 years from now? What do you have to say to them now that you want them to hear at your age, basically where you're at? What would you say to them if they found it today?
Well, just one of the first things that I mentioned, how, my family taught me that family is the most important thing in life, and then hard work is the second most important thing. And if they remember that, then they're good and they're set.
I love it. Perez, you've been very generous with your time. We're going to put a link to your podcast. We're going to put, obviously, a link to one of the most biggest websites in the world. It's in the top 5,000 worldwide. And anything else you're working on you want to plug, Perez, or just pretty much the podcast is what you got cooking?
Well, actually, I'm doing a TV show for the Food Network that premieres later this month on August the 23rd called Worst Cooks in America, Celebrity Edition. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds. It's a competition show hosted by Rachel Ray and Ann Burrell, and me and a bunch of other celebs that can't cook try their hardest to learn in boot camp. It's super fun, family friendly, and it's really got an amazing cast of recruits. In addition to me, there is Carmen Electra, Eric Estrada, Carson Kresley, Vivica Fox, Melissa Peterman, Sean Lowe, and Nora Dunn. I was really happy to be amongst such a diverse and cool group of people, and I can't wait to watch it with my family.
Love it. We're gonna wrap. I want to wrap, but I do have one question though. Why did you cross over more into acting? Because you're gonna laugh, but I remember you in The Sopranos in that cameo back in the day when you were getting robbed. But why did you not cross over to acting? Because that seems kind of natural to you, or at least externally to me, it looks like it would be natural to you. Why did you have not cross over to acting on a more larger scale?
Well, I have been doing a lot of acting, actually, just smaller things here and there. If you want to see me acting, there's a movie I released last year with Heather Morris from Glee called Most Likely to Die. It's a horror movie, and I'm one of the leads in it. And I love horror films, so I was so genuinely stoked to be in a horror film. I also was in this other movie in a simpler genre called Meet the Blacks with Epps. Had a small cameo last year with the Abfab movie. And actually today, I'm in another little horror movie, another small independent horror film that comes out called WTF. And also released today, another limited release movie called We Love You, Sally Carmichael, that I'm in as well. So I've been doing a lot, just nothing like big, major studio pictures. I'm totally fine with that because, I've got to pay my dues, as they say, and work my way up. And I'm happy to do that, and also just happy to have fun and the experience of it all.
I love it. I love the humility. And I apologize. I knew you acted. I just would I was kind of saying to myself, why haven't we seen more of him? But you know what I'm going to do? Now I'm going to go back to your filmography, and I will check it out. Perez, thank you so much for being on the New Theory podcast, and have a great day. We really appreciate you being on.
My pleasure. Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.